We have all come together for one reason, and one reason only. That reason is not to destroy the circus. It's not to free all elephants from captivity. The reason we've all come together is to protect endangered Asian elephants from the harm and abuse that they've been suffering for decades at the hands of Ringling Brothers and Feld Entertainment.
That was one of the representatives of a group suing Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey Circus. A federal trial gets underway today in our nation's capital, in which the circus is accused of abusing its performing elephants. Many activists hope the legal battle could put an end to the use of endangered elephants at entertainment venues. Ringling Brothers contends that their treatment of all circus animals is state-of-the-art. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is in-session editor Fred Graham. Fred, you have been inside that courtroom and heard at least part of the opening statements. Give us a report.
Well, you just heard a little clip there from Tracy Silverman, who is the lead attorney for the animal rights group, and it was some time ago that she made that statement. Well, she really toughened her line in her opening statement to the court. It's not a jury trial, it's a bench trial today. She said basically it's hard to imagine how the circus can continue to use elephants under the criticism, if the criticism she leveled this morning is taken to heart by the judge, because she said the problem is that Ringling Brothers goes to about 40 cities per year. And they go by train. They take these elephants and they put them in train cars. And whenever they're in a train car, they have to be chained. Their feet have to be chained. Generally, 2 or 3 of their feet have to be chained down. And sometimes they stay in those train cars, she says, for as long as 100 hours. But she said it's not unusual that they stay in there for 20 hours. And basically, it's hard to imagine. She said that has to stop. It's hard to imagine how the circus could go on from city to city without taking the elephants in cars like that. Then she talked about the bull hook, and most of us who have seen an elephant perform have seen the trainers use this hook that they slip up and slip it behind their ear, and it's a traditional way of dealing with elephants, and they say that it's not that elephants are big and tough and that it doesn't harm them. It's just like a leash almost. But she said it causes permanent psychological and physical wounding. And she's put up on the screen a video of an elephant swaying back and forth. And some of us have seen elephants do that in the circus, sway their heads and their bodies. And she says this is the result of psychological damage and fear carried out by that bull hook. And she said that they will put on the stand an expert who has spent years with elephants in the wild and will testify that they just don't do this in the wild. And so,
I imagine, Fred, we're going to hear from experts on both sides. I want to let our viewers know that we did ask Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey to give us an interview. They did not and could not, they said, because of the litigation. But they did give us this statement, Fred. Ringling Brothers meets and often exceeds federal requirements on the care of circus animals, and its animal care practices are commonly accepted and well known to the government. In fact, Ringling Brothers is inspected repeatedly by federal, state, and local authorities in virtually every city the circus performs, and has never been found in violation of the Animal Welfare Act. That's the federal law that regulates the treatment of animals by circuses, zoos, and other exhibitors, which, Fred, gets me to my next question. This is all about a federal law, a very specific one, isn't it?
Well, it's the Endangered Species Act. And today, in the opening statement by the defense, by Ringling Brothers, they took, which struck me as a rather odd and maybe misplaced approach. John Simpson, who is a lawyer from a large Texas law firm, took a kind of a Texas style. He took it by, he says, this is an effort. He said a circus is not a circus without elephants. He said the Endangered Species Act was never intended to apply to animals in legal captivity, but, you know, think eagles, think tigers, think wolf packs. And he said that it just doesn't deserve to be in this case. And he said He said this suit is an assault upon a tradition that goes back hundreds of years, and he says, and what we say is, and it sounded a little bit like George Bush to me. He says, bring it on. And I said to myself, my eyes popped open, and I said, yeah, I'm not sure that's the way you go with an African-American judge in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, tradition is not the best defense, given some of the ugly traditions we've had to overcome in this country. At the same time, I think we will learn a whole lot about endangered elephants, Asian elephants, and their cousins, African elephants. Let me bring in Ashley Banfield. So, Ashley, you and I have gotten to know each other really well in the course of 3 years of working together, and I know a whole lot about you, and I think you know a whole lot about me.
Creepy.
But I have no idea where you come down on this case, so I wanted to know, and I decided let's find out on national television.
Well, I think it's really hard for anybody in this country to say I'm for animal cruelty. You know, some people might be indifferent to this, but I think very few people would come down suggesting that this is a great idea to use bull hooks. It doesn't sound good. It just doesn't sound right, and chaining animals doesn't sound right either. So politically, this is a really hard fight to fight. But who doesn't like to go to the circus, right? And this is where a lot of people get their information and their education about animals, going to zoos and circuses. There could be vast implications for not only circuses, but zoos as well. Because if this Endangered Species Act applies to circus, well then that might be the slippery slope. We might be seeing this applying to a whole other bunch of cases.
Now let me have you respond to Tom Ryder, who actually worked for Ringling and is now on the other side of all of this. I share your view, Ashley, but let's hear what Tom has to say.
It is very, very discouraging when you see a bullhook used on an elephant, hook them behind the ears. They want to put their headpiece on. They'll take this part and put it right behind their ear and just pull down on them. There's gashes behind their ears. I could put my little finger in some of those gashes. This is the kind of things that I witnessed day after day, year after year, for 2.5 years.
One of the plaintiffs used to work for Ringling. Ashley, seems like a real culture clash in that courtroom.
It does, but we should also mention that Ringling has fired a countersuit, RICO, racketeering, suggesting that this guy's on the payroll for some of these animal rights activists. So look, there's two sides to every story. I've never worked in the circus. I can't say what he's saying is accurate. I just don't love what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I threatened to join the circus when I was a kid, right, Mom?
I work in the circus now.
This is a media circus. So, Fred, let me come back to you. What's the likely outcome here?
Well, after you heard the opening statements, I must say I felt that this is one that the Ringling Brothers Circus could really lose in a bad way unless they appeal the case and they're able to persuade the appellate courts that Congress just never dreamed that the Endangered Species Act would be used in this fashion.
This is Ashley's point, a broad application, I think, Ashley, of endangered species, something a jury might not understand, but certainly a judge will.
Yeah, and you know what? And we're not just talking about the circus at this point, because if they prevail, if the animal rights activists prevail here, there has been the suggestion they will go further and start looking into the captivation of animals in zoos.
You know, another statement we got from Ringling, and I only have time for a part of it, animal special interest groups are distorting the facts by making false allegations about the treatment of elephants as part of a long-running crusade to eliminate animals from circuses, zoos, and wildlife parks. Now, I don't know whether they're distorting the facts, but there has been this crusade, hasn't there?
Yeah, and probably rightly so in a lot of instances. There have been vast instances of animal cruelty. Look what happened with Michael Vick. That's been going on for a long time. It continues to go on now, and that was a federal case, too. So at least this stuff is coming to light now, and if you're going to partake in the circus, at least know what it is you're partaking in.
Yeah, maybe there's some sort of compromise result, although given what Fred's reported about the contentious nature of this case, I don't know that we can get there, at least not without the judge's help. All right, with that, the best defense will rest for the day.